Because I think what we're trying to do here at IKAN Academy is to listen to and hear from real people with real voices, with real things they need to say about the education system. My name is DIANA Powell, and I am the founder of IKAN Academy Group. Have organised some amazing men and women who speak to their context and narrative of education on the continent. Education means different things to different people.
My name is BINEZERO HIRWA GILBERT. I come from Rwanda. I'm now a refugee living in Chakatu refugee settlement, in Western Uganda. I am a teacher.
We are looking at the conversation around from aid to empowerment and why Africa needs its own local solutions. I think the conversation that we're having now is quite pertinent because now it's having to rethink and start to think about, well, what is life going to be like without aid? You know, what are some of the best practices that we can find and some of the best solutions that we can find? So welcome to another episode of Education Rising, African Voices of the Future. My name is Diana Powell, and I am the founder of IKAN Academy Group. And I'm super excited, you know, to be speaking on this platform because we have organized some amazing men and women who speak to their context and narrative of education on the continent. And, you know, we say that, you know, it's important to have these kind of conversations because education means different things to different people. And, you know, we will be speaking to NGOs, we'll be speaking to thought leaders, we'll be speaking to people in the political arena and so much more, because I think what we're trying to do here at IKAN Academy is to listen to and hear from real people with real voices, with real things they need to say about the education system. But most important, about the future of education on the continent. So in this episode, we are looking at the conversation around from aid to empowerment and why Africa needs its own local solutions. We've heard in the news over the last few months about how aid has been taken from some really valuable initiatives and projects on the continent and has had a devastating effect, not just on the projects, but on the communities that it serves. So I think the conversation that we're having now is quite pertinent because now it's having to rethink and start to think about, well, what is life going to be like without aid? We having these conversations now around sustainability, but, you know, more importantly, you know, how are we going to be looking at sustainability? What does it look like? And, you know, what are some of the best practices that we can find and some of the best solutions that we can find? So today we are going to start that conversation about that particular shift from aid to sustainability, from aid to being non-dependent on some of this aid that in some respects could say as could we say hinder? But it depends on which side of the fence you're on. So today we have an amazing gentleman, and I'm not really going to talk much about him, but all I can say is Gilbert BINEZERO Hirwa from Hope Away From Home has an amazing story. And, you know, I want our listeners to hear from somebody that has his story literally transcends the continent, but I'm going to let him talk about his story and we're going to have a conversation about the topic of today, from aid to empowerment and why Africa needs its local solutions. So welcome, Gilbert. How are you today, sir?
Great. How are you, Diana?
I'm good. I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. So where are you? What part of the world are you in right now?
Right now we are in Ichakatu refugee settlement that is in Western Uganda, East Africa. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So one of the first things I know a lot of our listeners would really want to hear from you is, first of all, I would like for you to introduce yourself, because you have an amazing story. So I would like you to introduce yourself before we jump into the conversation.
Yeah, my name is BINEZERO HIRWA GILBERT. I come from Rwanda. I'm now a refugee living in Ichakatu refugee settlement, Western Uganda. I am a teacher. I wear so many hats in my life. I'm a teacher. I'm a computer trainer. I'm a translator. I'm a poet. I'm a writer. And I used to be a musician back in Rwanda. My stage name was Bini Relax. Unfortunately, I couldn't continue because as you grow up, you find many responsibilities. And I am the founder of Hope Away From Home. It is a refugee-led organization, community-based, operating in Ichakatu refugee settlement, empowering different people. As we will dive into that. And I am also a volunteer at Little by Little Educational Services. It is an American-based NGO. And I am the director of African Initiative at Little by Little Educational Services. Thank you.
I'm going to step back a second, because I've heard about the work you have done and continue to do. And I'm going to explore that a little bit more in relation to today's episode. But I think the audience want to know a bit about you, because, you know, people buy into people's story and people's journey. It lays the context, because when we start to talk about what is your purpose, what is your mission, it starts in our more formative years. And I just feel that you have an amazing story to share as to why you are here today with your amazing initiative, Hope Away From Home. So, Gilbert, share your story.
Okay, so my story is too long, but we try to be brief. I was born in 1986, and I grew up in Rwanda. I studied in Rwanda, but while I was in primary one, we fled to Democratic Republic of Congo because there was genocide happening in our country, Rwanda. Reaching in Congo, of course, I continued to study under the trees because there were no schools built for refugees. And we lived in a camp down there in Bukavu, that is in South Congo. And we were using, it was a tent to a tent. That's how we were living. And there were, of course, pandemics attacking refugees because we were about more than 300,000 in the same camp, and people were using public toilets, public bathrooms. So life was not easy in that camp, and we had to flee again the camp in 1996, going in 1997, when Mobutu Sese Sese's government was being withdrawn, and when the people who had already taken Rwanda, the new government in Rwanda was looking for Rwandese refugees to go back, and those who did genocide also to be captured and be sentenced. So coming back in Rwanda, because my family were not accusing themselves of anything, we came back in Rwanda where we were internally displaced again. We fled to another province where my grandmother, to the side of my mother, were living. So that is where I had to complete my primary schools. And I won there a governmental scholarship to continue my secondary studies. Then they sent me to study to Rambula High School Boys, but at the time we were in a French system. It was called Groupe Scolaire Rambura Garçon. And that's where I continued my O-level in secondary schools. Then I won another scholarship to continue to take an option in mathematics and physics. They sent me again to Gisenyi College. At the time, it was called College de Gisenyi, College Nyemera Mihigo de Gisenyi. That is where I finished my secondary schools. I was studying mathematics and physics, but it was not mathematics only that we were covering. We were covering at the time mathematics, physics, biology, chemistry, geography, and English. We were covering English because English were newly introduced in the system. So we had also to study it as a lesson aside, as a course aside. But me, I had also to join American group at the time because I had an eager to learn English. It was a new language coming up, and we were encouraged to learn this language because you couldn't even apply for a job in Rwanda if you couldn't apply in English. And there was no chat GPT. Diana, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I think you've frozen. Your screen is frozen. It's okay. We'll work with you. So one of the things that I'm hearing from you, there's a couple of things. Your journey as a young person, as a child, you know, you've been dispersed on a number of occasions, but education was still important to you, no matter what your context was. It was never a thing. It's to me that it was never pushed to one side. There was always some way of you or your family supporting you to instill the value of education, regardless of your context.
My father was educated. My mother did some primary schools and some vocational studies, but I was inspired by my father. Even if he's no longer with us, may his soul rest in peace. He left us in 2007, before I even finished my secondary studies, and maybe buy him some tea or share with him some very big conversation about my educational journey and the rest. But I really think because of his blood, that's why I was inspired. And my mother also used it to push us to go to school, even if there were no possibilities enough, maybe like school fees in terms of getting scholastic materials. It was always not that easy. The people who studied with me know very well.
Mm-hmm.
The financial management used to take us outside of class while we are studying, and they say, you go back home, you come back when you have school fees. So it was not easy, not only because I grew up in a refugee context settings, but also while I was not a refugee, the little time I had, it was never easy. Not while I was in Rwanda, between 2003 and 2010, when I had to flee again my country, due to very big reasons, but I don't want to cover that. That's reasons of protections and whatever, but that's the reason why I'm here, is because I'm a refugee. What I'd like to add is that I came in Uganda in 2017. I had not finished my university career. I wanted to continue, but I left my country without academic documents, which would allow me to enroll in other universities, even if I get school fees. So I spent from 2017 up to 2022. That's 5 years already. I was in Uganda as a paperless person. I had no academic documents, no official documents, which could allow me maybe to enroll anywhere in any class, until I found my asylum seeker in 2022. That's when because I had an eagerness, I had not finished my studies, and still I wanted to prove the world that I can do it. So I didn't stop. I kept updating my academic and vocational studies. That's when I joined refugee. This is Jesuit GRC. That is Jesuit Refugee Service. they were offering to asylum seekers and refugees in Uganda some vocational studies. So I joined the GRS, that is the Jesuit Refugee Services in Zambia, that is in Kampala, in the vocational opportunity they were offering to refugees and asylum seekers. Me, I had to choose CCNA, that is the CCNA, that computer networking. So I had to intentionally study that, where I got a scholarship to continue to Makerere University in 2022, but they were going to cover only educational fees and maybe to give me a computer, but accommodation and the restaurant, I had to take care of myself. Remember, I was an asylum seeker, I had no job, and not every institution in Uganda, in Kampala especially, know about asylum seeker. They could consider the document like, we don't know this document, what is this? So I couldn't get a job, I couldn't either any other help. So I had to, Jesuit Refugee Service paid for me 3 months, but the rest I had to arrange myself. So in the meantime, I fell sick. I got an accident. So that accident, I got abroad. I was nearly to die. I've never seen any worse, but I saw death at the time. So I had now to request the Office of the Prime Minister, Department of Refugees, to take me in the refugee settlement because I couldn't take care of myself at the time. So I lost that scholarship. Then I came in Chapel refugee settlement. I started in the reception center here. I spent there 6 months, and the life was not easy at the time because most of chances were only of scholarship. There were scholarships of window. There was a MasterCard Foundation scholarships, but still I couldn't join because I was still an asylum seeker and I was very sick.
So this time, are you still in the refugee camp? You're in the refugee camp. This is a part of your story. This is where you're. Okay.
Now I'm recognized the refugee. I was admitted. I was allowed to have a refugee status. Now I'm a refugee status. I'm no longer an asylum seeker.
All right. Hope Away From Home.
Yes. So because I couldn't continue my studies, most opportunities focus on refugees under 35, and I'm already 39 years old. So I can't get access on those opportunities. And getting also access on decent jobs is still a dream, because still I don't have my academic documents, only certificates of doing some webinars and vocational studies. So I had to think about, yes, of course, I'm here and there is a humanitarian crisis in the humanitarian aid settings, where USAID has already gone back and most international NGOs has gone back in the United States or where they come from. So now it's about local actors to act. So if it is about local actors to act, even if I don't have those chances, but at least me, I'm educated. So many people are hopeless. So many people are helpless. Imagine an elder having 80 years old. What are they thinking? What about a raped woman while she was in DRC Congo in the forest, and now she's here? She still needs advocacy. She still needs to be linked up to the people who can help her, to the NGOs that can help her, to the voices that can come up with solutions to them. So we are still advocating for localization, to localize funds, and to localize capacity building. Because even if we dive into this system to empower the communities, we are not professionals into this refugee setting sector. Because if, for example, I have to offer mental health and psychosocial support to the community, that's a sector which needs a professional, and I'm not professional, but still our community needs solutions. So as educated personnel, as the people have the eagerness to serve also our communities, yes, of course, all of us, we need help. We were relying on WFP. That's the World Food Program. We were relying on UNHCR. We were relying on Save the Children. We were relying on so many different international NGOs. But when this crisis break in, it means international NGOs had to go home. But for us, as people who are on ground, who understand the crisis, who speak this little English at least, who can advocate for our communities, what is our role? That is when I sat down, and at the time I was a volunteer at Little by Little Educational Services. That is an American, that is an A503C organization in the United States of America. And I thank so much the director of Little by Little. Her name is Anne Shen. She had been helping me in getting internet, in getting stuff, because she was doing already what I was doing. At the time, I was not in a Hope Away From Home. I was in a Chakatu Refugee-led Organizations Network. So that network of refugee-led organizations were there. Me, I had no organization, but I was also helping there in terms of, I was the social media manager to make sure that the visibility of these refugee-led organizations is really aware of by other people who can help out, who can maybe advocate for localization of funds and capacity building, that their work in the settlement is really visible to the people who can come in and help, to the donors who've been helping these other international NGOs. So these refugee-led organizations had no way to go because they belong to the community. They are made of people from the community. So when they were also involving the community, I saw some gaps. That's when I thought about initiatives, an initiative which can also cover these gaps, because we all need to empower our community. We all need to step in. That is when the idea of Hope Away From Home, I had it, of course. I've been a refugee 3 times in my life. I had ideas written on papers, but when I talked to Anne Shen, she gave me strength, she gave me wings to fly. She said, wow, those are very nice initiatives, because little by little is in education. The first initiative I had to think about was about education. So many children were facing dropouts. So many early marriage and early pregnancies were happening. So many street children on the streets even today. So that's when I started giving notebooks. As I get the little wage from Little by Little, I had to buy some notebooks and give to some of the kids, and they go back to school. Then when Anne Shen saw this, she said, wow, that's great. So up to now, Little by Little was helping other organizations and having other initiatives, but we are still looking for NGOs like Little by Little and also IKAN Academy group, so that we can really have such sustainable program to make sure these kids go back to school. Not only children, even the other ones in secondary schools, they don't have means enough as there was WFP and the other organizations were helping refugees in getting monthly ration, monthly assistance. But nowadays, when most of families assistance is cut off, it means even secondary schools, children need this help. So to make it sustainable, we really need partners to step in. So Hope Away From Home is having so many initiatives, but that's how also Hope Away From Home came in. We began in June 2024. So far we have done so much, but for us it's like a drop in an ocean. We still need to work. We need to have a school. We need our own school, because we understand the context of our refugees more than anybody else. So that's actually how Hope Away From Home stepped in. Thank you so much. If there's anything else maybe that I can highlight, you let me know.
There's so much, but there is so much different directions we can take this conversation. And so for those who are listening, Education and Rising African Voices, another conversation, another episode. And the focus today is from aid to empowerment, why Africa needs local solutions, and why is this conversation so important. And again, I'd just like to welcome our guest Gilbert from Hope Away From Home, who's shared so much of his life journey and the life of what it's like to live in a refugee camp and to still provide education provision for those children and those young people living there. So with that in mind, I would like to now think a little bit deeper into the conversation around today's topic, from aid to empowerment, and why Africa needs its own local solutions. I know you started to touch on a few elements of this, but you know, the life of what you speak about in those refugee camps and the thinking about, well, okay, it's the gone are the days where we had money from many donors supporting such initiatives. It's getting more and more challenging now to acquire those external funding. So why do you think this conversation, Gilbert, now from aid to empowerment, we need to look for local solutions, is more important than ever before?
This conversation is really more important. I begin by saying that I've been a teacher in Rwanda. I've been teaching. I was home to home teaching when children are back from school. Some of them don't maybe understand very well the lessons they've been taking at school. Their parents would need somebody to come and highlight what they've been studying so that they go back the next day when they know it very well. So I've been doing that for 4 years, while I was also teaching English to adults in Rwanda, vocationally, because the English system in Rwanda came in 2003, but officially in 2007, that's when it started being introduced very well. So many people didn't speak English, and yet we're in East African community whereby people had to cross borders to go to look for, maybe to buy, maybe to buy stuff which we don't have in our country. There were so many opportunities opened. Then lately I came in Uganda. I've been also in Congo, as I began saying. So I know I've been almost everywhere in East Africa, and that is a very big question, which I think I'm one of the best people to ask such question. But first of all, why we need the local solutions? We need the local solutions because the local people understand the legal context. They know the culture. So they know the challenges that the people are facing, not by reading books, not by going to internet, not by being on YouTube and watch a video, but we know the context of our little people. Right now, from aid to empowerment, I'm sorry to mention that, but as you see, I'm in a suit. I love the way Anne Shen, my director, used it to call on people to really support the word or the term agency. When we talk about agency, it means even if we would be empowering or helping people, let us involve those people in finding their own solutions. Because if you don't run on a data collection, if you are bringing a solution not based on data you collected from the local people, from the same people you are going to give a solution to, I think that solution will not work out. So for me, I believe in giving in giving time the really people you are finding a solution to also be part of the solution. If those people are part of the solution, they understand the culture very well, the challenges very well, the content very well. And if they are part of the solution, of bringing the solution, they will know how much it took to find the solution. So they will be the keeper of these solutions to be sustainable. Because if a solution is not sustainable, which kind of solution is that? Because after the help, after donors will have gone, after that, donors will have stopped their empowerment. These local people still need to remain powerful to the level to continue implementing, empowering their own. For example, right now, I'm a refugee, but now I have begun an initiative. I have to approach the youth. I have to approach fellow refugees, tell them what I think is really worth it. Then they come and join hands with me. They came and joined the hands with me. On my background, I think you are seeing handcrafted products. Those products are made by refugees themselves. So if someone is empowered and given knowledge or is given power to use their own hands, to know how long it takes to make that hat or that bag, to make how much money it takes to make it, they will know how much to sell it on the market. And they will know the power of teaching, training their kids to know how to make them. And after that, they will be making them. They no longer need the help to buy raw materials because they already have sold some of their products. They know how much raw materials have cost. They will know what is the interest. They will know how much to save. Then that is how the sustainability will come in. Another example, if we are giving notebooks to school children, and then after giving them scholastic materials, because we belong to this community, we know how many notebooks they need. We know how long they will use them, and we will know how long it will take to give them other notebooks. But if you come from, I'm sorry to mention United States of America or Canada or France, if you come from there and you come to implement a project, most of the time the project will not be sustainable because basically, where did you get data? Maybe you bring clothes to the community, but who told you this community need clothes? Maybe they need food. Maybe they need raw materials to make their own products. Maybe we need to open a vocational school around, which will be the source of the continuation. If this vocational school is here, then this means these people will be capable of continuing sustaining their own products. They're sustaining their own projects. But
I want to come into you. I want to come into that point a second. So
yes.
Are you alluding to the thinking that there are times where there are funders that will literally throw money into initiatives, but without any real impact because they do not really understand fully the context of the communities that they're trying to serve?
Very good, because I give you an example. Like here in our refugee settlement, in Chakatu refugee settlement, we have 9 zones, and each zone had its own facility that was taking care of people who were sick. I don't know if I can call it an hospital, but that's maybe a health center. That's how I can call it, because they don't have the same capacity. Yes, of course, they were 9, but there was a mother facility, which is an hospital, Bujuburi Hospital, but all others were health centers. So, but now that the aid was cut off, we remain only with 3 working in the whole settlement. Imagine in 9 zones. How about the people who are coming from very far? If someone is very sick, there was a reduction of healthcare workers. If healthcare workers, well, maybe let's call them 10 in each health facility. Now that there are only 3 operating, we remain with 3 in 90 health workers. So imagine now the task of those 30, they will not cover the whole settlement. So what I mean is what? Now that the people who thought about the solution of building those 9 health facilities, the money which built those health facilities was supposed maybe to buy these ambulances, which were supposed to be bringing people from far in the other zone. But now that they had already bought maybe, let's say maybe only 2 ambulances, now those facilities, will they destroy them to buy, will they sell them to buy more ambulances? No. So this money is now useless because the facilities are not operating. If a child at school was sick, because as we have 9 zones, we have 9 facilities, health facilities, we also have 9 schools. Those schools are funded by Fin Church Aid, and Fin Church Aid has built in each zone a school. Yet, even those schools are not enough, because you can find in each class, you can find 200 students, kids. How will a teacher manage that? That's an impossible. That's why the refugee needs to come in. So even these schools are there, but we are saying that refugees are getting free. They are. If a child maybe is sick at school, they take him to hospital on free of charge. But if a child is studying in a hospital which is not nearby these 3 other facilities which are still operating, now the school doesn't have a car. How will the child come to the hospital? Parents will need to be called. They take the kid at hospital. Then the kid will take a long time to reach the hospital. Even maybe the sickness, he might even die on the way to the hospital. If we get a chance and the kid survives, when will he come back to school? We need the other, at least if he was nearby, the parent will be able to be coming to report to the school. But the parent is going to stay with the kid away from home, another hospital, without taking care of the brothers or sisters or siblings of this kid at home. So the kids are going to miss school, the whole family. So actually, what you spoke is true. Most donors will be giving out their money on these international NGOs. They come to implement their activities, but most of this money will be lost in the air, because it will not reach the really people the beneficiaries who need it the most. But if it is a refugee which was given this money, and for example, like me, even in the weekend I work, even on Sundays, because I might be at home and I hear that there's maybe a gender-based violence case happening in the nearby, in the place where I live. Immediately I will leave home and go to see what is happening, maybe to offer psychological first aid, maybe to give them maybe to call the hospital, because I understand very well the context, because I attend coordination meetings. I really, at least I have capacity building which is beyond our community. So I will need to step in. But if it is another hired personnel or professional in another international NGO, you cannot call him in the weekend. He's only getting paid from Monday up to Friday. Because he doesn't get paid on Saturdays and Sundays, he's not going to come. You see? So donors need to step in and empower refugee organizations, local actors. We cannot leave also international NGOs around, because they are more capacitated in terms of capacity building, in terms of having more professionals, because for them they pay them. But if we are given power, we can also pay professionals. But still we operate in the same context of local actors. Thank you.
I want us to look in terms of when you've given quite a broad context in terms of some of the challenges that come with aid. But what I wanted to kind of have a better understanding of is, looking back at Africa's development story, and in some respects, certain elements highly dependent on aid. And we could see this context because of what happened a few months back with the withdrawal of US aid from a number of initiatives on the continent, and the impact, the negative impact that withdrawal of funding had on the projects, but also the community at large. So coming from your context within the refugee camps, I was just curious as to how dependent is the education system on aid, and you've touched on elements of that. But I'm trying to get my head around now, if it was a thing where now aid has been reduced from the school system, what then is the next? How would it be funded? Or, give us some little context, because we're talking about, the topic of today is about aid to empowerment, why we need local solutions. Pulling back from aid, is that the right thing to do, or does it have to happen over a period of time in order for it to be sustainable within these communities? I'm trying to get my head around the local context and the withdrawal or the lack of dependency on aid.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think I mentioned it, but I will repeat it and maybe go deeper. We are talking about education, but education which ignores culture, education ignores the context, education which ignores the challenges will create confusion. Why? Because if education is ignoring culture, remember, education is a collective. It needs a collective effort. It doesn't need only one person. It needs teachers and parents at home. It needs community leaders. To educate a community, it takes a bigger community. So when education is relying only on imported models, I think that will be a very big problem. Because I remember back in school, when we were studying geography, we used to study geography. I used to do my own researches. They used to teach us the longest mountain in the world, the longest mountain in Africa, the longest mountain in Rwanda. But yes, in Rwanda, because I come from Rwanda. But why should I know the longest mountain in Africa when I don't know the longest mountain in Uganda, in Kenya, in Burundi, in Democratic Republic of Congo? Yet they are the countries which are nearby my country. I think language was supposed to be a tool of communication, not a tool that captivates even science, even everything. Yes, of course, discoveries, most discoveries are from modern, from Europe and maybe America in the West. But I think that's another narrative which should change, because it is maybe because we don't write our own history. We were not the first people to write down. I think the first people to write were Egyptian, and that's what books are saying. Was not there, but most books which talk about our history come from the West. That's why we doubt. Sometimes you are reading history, you are studying history, and you read the discovery of a river which is nearby your home was discovered by someone from Belgium. Then you ask yourself, how did someone from Belgium discover a river which was in the land of my ancestors? Were my ancestors not aware of this river? They were aware, but they were not capable of writing down. So the narrative should change, because if we need to really know the real stories, we need to go down on the local people. So education should be basically also based on local, on culture, so that it doesn't produce confusion. That's the education which will bring transformation. Because if I know very well my local context, if I need to transform my continent, we need to know it's really past. How did this happen? Where were my ancestors? How did they behave in this? How did they do this? But up to now, you find African youth, even if, for example, here in the settlement, in the Chakatu refugee settlement, we only have 3 solutions, permanent solutions for refugees. It's either you get a resettlement to a third country that's in Europe or America. It's either you repatriate or either you reintegrate in the host community. Those are the only 3 permanent solutions for refugees. So you can find it is a very few number of people who really want to reintegrate in the host community. Even if going back home is very difficult because home may be still not a safe place to go back. But imagine someone doesn't want to reintegrate in the community which received them, which gave them power, which gave them peace. Like, for example, me, I can say that I really thank the people of Uganda. You see, for example, I'm having a meeting. No one is interrupting me. I'm having Hope Away From Home. Yes, of course, in settlement, if you get it, maybe you get more opportunities connecting you because the Western has maybe technologically or maybe in the other context, they are very developed. But even if they integrate me in the community of Uganda, I can survive. But it's because I'm educated. That's the power of education anyway. So, but for people who don't speak English, it is very difficult for them to survive because they only survive by agriculture. There are so many doctors who became farmers, so many teachers who became farmers. So coming back on my context, what I mean is that the reason why they became farmers is because they don't educate us in our local context. If we knew Uganda before we come in Uganda, right now I can speak about the Big Ben in United Kingdom. I know about London Eye. I know about I speak English very well, but I didn't know about local languages in Uganda. I didn't know them. I just had to learn them when I reached Uganda. So if we are really mainly educated accordingly to our local cultures, I think the pride, the relevance, and the sustainability will be more accessible than learning from foreign context, from foreign adopted models. So I think it's really important because people will look for solutions, for their local solutions. Better they will be. You don't need to go to study in England to come and be a mayor in Uganda. You don't need to start. Last night I was watching news. I saw New York elected mayor was born in Uganda. So people has to begin thinking like that. Even if I go to United States of America, I'm going to be a leader, not to look for opportunities which I can't find in Uganda. I think someone who managed to be a mayor in New York can become a mayor also in Kampala, can become a mayor in Kigali, can become a mayor in Cameroon. But most people who are educated in the Western context, when they finish their studies, they don't want to come back. They want to stay there because they don't have the love, they don't have the connection, they don't have the pride with what is happening here, with what can be the innovation they can bring here, with how they can begin from here. And we are educated to work in offices, not to begin our own innovation. Why? Because even in the offices, the context is important. Uganda, if we are going to elect our own leaders, someone who studied politics in Harvard, how is he going to come to rule somebody in Kampala when he doesn't know the challenges people are facing? To find solutions, he will need to rely on other people, assistants who will be next to him. So now the assistant is going to be the one serving instead of that big personnel. He's going to be taking money from the community for nothing. Yet he is the one to take major decisions. You find in big meetings or big webinars. For example, if they call on a webinar to find solutions of maybe innovators, you find instead of calling those local innovators, the people who are there are the Ministry of Innovation. The Minister of Innovation is the one who is going to attend in Geneva, maybe in a meeting in Geneva. Instead of looking for a local person who knows the real challenges, they take the minister. Yet the minister, the only information the minister has is the information he's reading on Google. The information he's getting from his assistant. He doesn't face the real challenges of the local people. Mm. The minister need maybe to call on those innovators. He need to call on the mayors in the district level. Hey, you look for us, innovators who are capable to come in context in Kampala. If they finish, I'm saying about Kampala because now I'm part of Uganda. I'm eating because of Uganda, the Ugandan food, the education is Ugandan, everything here is Ugandan, and I thank so much the host community because in Uganda, they really reintegrate refugees too quickly. Yes, of course, there are challenges we have to dive into, but Ugandans have really received us, and I thank the government of Uganda for having really enabled us to be confident, to be capable of sharing also the life we are facing. But it is not beyond of what the host community is facing. It's only the narrative change, but we are facing almost the same life. Yes, it is hard for us because we have some restrictions in the policies that guiding refugees, and maybe policies which allow us maybe to participate somehow in some of the opportunities. But as far as we are, it's promising. So what I mean is that it is really important. I think you have picked what I've been saying. If we need solutions in Africa, we need solutions basically in agriculture, in livestock. If we need solutions in agriculture and livestock, which is reliable sources of income for over 90 or 80s of the population in Africa, we don't need to rely on this agriculture from the Western, because the agriculture from the Western is different from the agriculture we are saying, we are using, we are facing. When we bring it here, it looks like an innovation, but it is not an innovation to the Western people. It is an innovation to our people, but how many people are capable of adopting this so-called agriculture to cultivate in buckets? We still have land in Africa which is not exploited. But the reason why the other side, maybe they cultivate in buckets, they do irrigation through the pipelines, they do greenhouses, is because they don't have as much land as we have here. Maybe they have found those solutions for their people. They also want to implement those solutions here. Yes, of course, like here in the settlement, we have a small land, but we thank the government of Uganda to provide us a small land, because you have to also do field studies. So if they do field studies, they will go in Kansas or in California. They will not face the really challenges people in Ghana, people in Ivory Coast, people in Nigeria, people in Uganda, people in Rwanda, they are facing. So we need education to also be basically uprooted to the African resources and sources and level, so that they really gain, so that we get sustainable solutions, so that we feel proud of providing those solutions, because we really know the community we are facing that. Right now, I brought Hope Away From Home, and the solutions we are bringing, we are looking at the local people. We are not just coming from anywhere in England and say, okay, we are going to help people in Chaka. We know refugees are hungry. Refugees don't have clothes. They have left their places. They are displaced. Immediately you imagine solutions and you come and you implement them. Yes, because I need help, because I have nothing, I will need this help and I will welcome you. But that's not what I need. Thank you.
Gilbert, You've said so much. You've actually opened my eyes to a very, very different context that I never really thought about, especially when you're speaking about your context of living within these refugee camps. And I'm sure that those who are listening to you today are very inspired by you and the journey of you, what you've taken. Your journey has shed light on not just the challenges, because sometimes when you hear about the context of a refugee, I'm not taken away from it, but there is a perception. You've just, for me, embodied empowerment. And I'm so happy that you are here to share that, because I'm hoping that those who are listening in will understand more, not just about your context, but the challenges, but how you overcame, your communities have overcome those challenges regardless. I want to, as we start to close out, and we start to look towards the future, we keep hearing a lot about these sustainable goals, and I know you spoke about a lot of how communities can support you and how communities can support themselves. I want you to talk to your audience now with a final message from you in terms of this conversation from age to empowerment, and especially how those in the diaspora, the millions in the diaspora, can also support and aid in the sustainability you're talking about. If you can give us your final thoughts on that, please.
First of all, I thank you so much. And I begin by calling you before I call others. And thank you so much for having prepared this conversation. It's really important. We have many schools here, but they are not enough. We need more. And imagine where we have more than 32 primary schools and ECDs, early childhood development schools. We only have 2 secondary schools in our settlement. So you can imagine where other students are going when they finish primary schools. So we have also some refugees who try to build some small schools, but they really need support so that it can be more sustainable. Secondly, in most schools, the curriculum is for the Ugandan curriculum, of course, and we really need also people who can help us maybe reshape our curriculums in refugee settings, because it's really needed. Secondly, when we are teaching, we do not only teach content. We don't want to just teach content. We want to build dignity and agency. So if we want to build dignity and agency, we need to teach based on the local context. We really need this. So you cannot tell me that you will teach with agency where you are not involving the beneficiaries. You have to involve the beneficiaries. For example, there's this big woman called Maria Montessori. I knew about her when I was translating in a kindergarten back in Rwanda. Maria Montessori's system is education to early childhood development children. Where you are, it is an education based on games, on storytelling, on songs, teaching kids songs, in letting children also participate, finding their own, discover their own part, their own strength. And you cannot tell me that you are in education, you are teaching children when you are not involving them to participate. That's not possible. You need them to participate so that you know even the strongest, so that you know even the weaker, so that you know how to help them. So you need to involve children. If you need to involve them, then you need to have a class of maybe 30, 40. So if we still have a class of 130 children, this education is not promising. But because children need to go to school, we will send them. People will have no choice. Lastly, I need people to know that many people say that maybe refugees, when I was coming in this settlement, in the first 6 months, I was living by cultivating for people. I was a farmer. Nobody knew I know how maybe to click even on a computer. Nobody knew I speak English. Nobody knew I'm a mathematician. Nobody knew I'm a teacher. Nobody knew I'm an educator. So I was cultivating for people and getting about $1.50, $1.5 per day. So after you have cultivated from morning 8 a.m. up to 5 p.m. So imagine people are still living in these conditions. That's not easy. Until little by little showed up. That's why I thank Anne Deschaine so much for she has given me this volunteering job, and she had been facilitating me. Yes, with means possible. Yeah, it was really helpful. That's why you see me maybe changing my life. That's why I woke up for my fellow refugees to empower them. Those who have handicraft skills like the ones you are seeing here, these are the products from the people we are empowering. And we are also encouraging the people to do not sleep. Because even if I've been a refugee for 3 times in my life, I didn't stop. I didn't come in Uganda with my academic document. I kept looking for opportunities, education opportunities around. I attend so many webinars by Uni Athena, University. Now I am with Academy, IKAN Academy group. If opportunities are there, we dive into them. I don't rest. Whether I study in the night or where, I have just to dive into it. So I call on supporters, donors, to have trust on included organizations. We are powerful, we are capable, we are educated. So not all of us can manage them, can manage stress the same way. Some of us are still strong enough to wake up for our communities, let them know they have to come and approach us. We can really create an impact. We need so many in different sectors. And at Hope Away From Home, we are not only in education, we are also in a livelihood where we empower women in tailoring and in handicrafts, and also elderly above 70 years old. For example, this bag was made by a 70 years old woman. So we also call them also to buy Fiji products because they are more than products. There are stories behind those products. And when they approach us, we are about to open maybe an online market in the future when we get someone to help us open a website so that we can be selling these products online. When people buy them with their stories behind, I think we can all create an impact. Refugee rights are also human rights. Don't look at a refugee and say, no, that one is a refugee. I cannot give them money because they are refugees. They have many problems. I want to tell you that without help, we are empowering communities. So imagine what we can do while you donors, you partners can really approach us. I thank so much IKAN Academy for giving me the platform. And we can do so much more.
I think we have lost Gilbert here. What I will say, I think he may jump in a moment, but what I will say is that with Gilbert and his story and his initiative, Hope Away From Hope, I'm hoping that this has really inspired you to think very, very differently about the education system in this various contexts. This episode, From AIDS to Empowerment, Why Africa Needs Local Solutions, Gilbert from Hope Away From Home has given many, many examples of local solutions in real time. And this is not just him coming up with ideas, it's actually really happening. As we start to think about the future of Africa and its education system, we now need to start to think seriously about how we can start navigating more towards sustainability as the funding pot shrinks. The community still needs to be served. So I just want to say thank you to Gilbert, BINEZERO, really inspired us today. And I really, really do thank you. And I know we're going to see you again on our show. So on the behalf of IKAN Academy Group, to those who are listening, today's episode, From AIDS to Empowerment, Why Africa Needs Local Solutions, we do. Education Rising, African Voices for the Future. And I'd like to close out and say thank you all for listening to this episode. Thank you. Wow, I just want to say thank you to Gilbert from Hope Away From Home. So if you've come this far into the episode, I'm assuming you really did enjoy the show and the conversation with Gilbert today. Please, please share this information, like, comment. Your participation is really going to help us take this show to another level. And so more and more people can have access to this empowering information, and also support a lot of these projects and initiatives that we're presenting throughout these episodes. So I just want to say thank you again for tuning in, and see you soon.